me to the last thing I want to say about the topic, for now anyway. Within the biblical perspective on suffering, the question of pain is not silenced, it's not sidelined, it's not minimized, it's invited. It's invited. One of the beautiful things about the biblical perspective on suffering is that it fully endorses your right to doubt, to plead, to ask for an answer. Consider the Old Testament Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from the words of my groaning? O my God, I cry out by day, but you do not answer. If I were a Hindu, this question, why God, has its monolithic reply, because of karma. If I were a Buddhist, this question would be proof that I was not enlightened, that I hadn't seen that really suffering is an illusion born of my desire for the world. And if I were a Muslim, questioning God in this way would border on blasphemy. And of course, if I were an atheist, it's utterly meaningless because there's no one on the other end of the phone, no one to put the question to. In fact, I suspect many church folk would feel uncomfortable uttering these words in a prayer. My God, why have you forsaken me? Many Christian people feel that the only faithful response to suffering is the sentiment of the psalm which follows Psalm 22, the even more famous Psalm 23, which says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. But the presence of Psalm 22 before Psalm 23 stands as a reminder that sometimes the plea, my God, why have you forsaken me, can be just as much an expression of faith as the affirmation, the Lord is my shepherd. This was put really well in an essay on the Psalms by the lead singer of U2, Bono. He describes the Psalms as the original blues music, and he writes, that's what a lot of the Psalms feel like to me, the blues, man shouting at God, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Now, at one level, I want to qualify Bono's statement, and at another, I think he doesn't go far enough. I think I'd want to qualify Bono's statement by suggesting that there is such a thing as the inappropriate questioning of God, like that embarrassing first-year philosophy student who smugly puts up his hand and asks a question he thinks his professor has never heard before. There is this kind of Chardonnay questioning of God that's born of arrogance and ignorance. But while I'd want to qualify Bono's statement by urging us to bring our questions to God with a little humility, there is a very real sense in which Bono doesn't go far enough, because Psalm 22 is far more than man shouting at God. It's God's invitation for you to do so. By including this psalm and many others like it, the Bible takes an approach to the question of suffering that is quite unlike those found in other philosophical traditions. Our doubts, our fears, our complaints, our questions are allowed. And if any other proof of this were needed, let me point out that at the moment of his greatest agony on the cross, Jesus himself reached for the words of Psalm 22. Mark's Gospel reads, and at the 9th hour, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me? The God of the Bible, in other words, bids us to approach him with our doubts, our fears, and our frustrations. Because it's precisely in this mode of personal engagement with God, man shouting at God, to borrow Bono's words, that we are in a position to hear God's reply, the content of which I want to explore on another occasion. For now, I just want to say that that question so many of us feel like asking is allowed. The God of the Bible allows those questions, those doubts, those frustrations.